Hi, and welcome to the video. Now, have you ever seen old photos brought back to life? I'm sure you have, and thought, wait, is that the same person that was in the original? So in this video, I'm comparing photo enhancement tools from Ancestry, MyHeritage, and more importantly, from ChatGPT and other Gen AIs. Now, some of these results look amazing, but some of us raise the question, are we restoring this past or are we rewriting it? Are these real or are these fiction? So I'm going to start off with two of my old photographs. One is Thomas Dixon. He's in a military uniform, and the other is Charles Beaumont. And as you can see, the photograph of Thomas Dixon is okay. The one of Charles could do with some work. So we're going to take these originals and run them through the systems and see what we end up with. Now, as far as looking at Charles, I ran it through Ancestry, I colorized and sharpened it, and I also ran it through MyHeritage, colorized and sharpened it. And you see there's a fairly substantial difference between the way Ancestry interprets the image and the way MyHeritage does. The faces are pretty much the same, which is the important thing. But Ancestry has decided that Charles is in a blue suit, and MyHeritage has decided he's in a brown suit. So this doesn't really matter too much, but you will find different things with different systems. And you can see Ancestry hasn't colorized the suit completely either. But as I say, the most important thing looking at it, it has cleaned up the brightness here, and the facial image looks a lot better. But when we take Charles over to ChatGPT, some very strange things happen, and I'll show you some of the prompts later on. So if you stand by, we'll look at the prompts and some other surprising things. So I told ChatGPT to take this image and sharpen and colorize it. So this is what it came up with. Clearly not Charles. The face is somewhat different. The pose is different. The necktie has been changed, and completely fictional picture that is inspired. And we need to remember that when we get to ChatGPT or Gen AI, these are fictional pictures. These are the best guesses. So we can see this. What I prefer, I think, in ChatGPT is to do something like this, reproduce it in oils, which is a nice image. It's something a painter may have produced, and it's clearly not a photograph. But these are propagating through Ancestry and MyHeritage, and we have to be very careful. Now let's look at Thomas Dixon. So this is the original on the left, and we look at the MyHeritage, and I'm going to go through the different steps here, because what I prefer to do with all these systems is take it one step at a time. So I took the original, I went to MyHeritage and sharpened it. And this is actually a nice photograph now. It's a little bit clearer. It's not made any substantial changes. It's very subtle. And then I asked MyHeritage to colorize it. Now, anybody who knows military history, this is a First World War British soldier. They certainly didn't wear this dark grey or bluish uniform. It was khaki. So it's got the colorization incorrect. The hat might be about the right color, but the rest of it is not very good. It's not colorized the ornament here that you sat on. But again, it's not too bad. The facial features and tone look about right. So not too worried about the way it's taken it, but obviously the original is there. It's the same person. It's just been colorized. And then I did the same thing on Ancestry. Ancestry repair again, very much like MyHeritage. Not a bad photograph at all. I'd keep that. And then the colorization, again, for some reason, Ancestry did the same thing as MyHeritage and went with blue for the uniform. Now, what I've found with all these repair tools or colorization tools is that if you've got an outside background with trees and grass and sky, it does a lot better job of colorizing than a studio portrait where some of the colors may be muted or changed in some way. So you can see Thomas is in a studio, it's got a blurry background, and that's why I think these tools have struggled. But you will get some very good results and better than this result. So what happened with ChatGPT? So I've got a number of examples I want to show you with ChatGPT. So first of all, I took it very simply. I took the original and said, ChatGPT, please sharpen, and then colorize in 2 steps like I did with the enhancement programs. And then I said to ChatGPT, please sharpen and then colorize. And it's removed the rub from his shoulder here, which is not a great thing. And the faces are cartoonish, more or less. There is some resemblance, I guess, but certainly not the kind of picture you would immediately associate with Thomas. And more importantly, it's changed the cap badge. And the cap badge is the way we'd identify many regiments. So it's made some changes. It's not a great representation here. So then I went on to ChatGPT and tried a couple of different approaches. I tried a simple prompt and I tried a detailed prompt. And you can see again, these have changed somewhat. We've not been promoted this time. We're still a Lance Corporal. The cap badges are still different. And the swagger stick that he's got here is different. And also the rope is still missing. The epaulets are slightly different as well. So we can see that, again, this is fiction. It's taking the original as an interpretation and shows pictures that are somewhat like that. But we'd never mistake these two, or in fact the 4 pictures as Thomas in the original. So let's have a quick look at what the ChatGPT prompts were that came through, and let's look at those conversations. So here we are at ChatGPT, and we'll go through. Your ChatGPT may look a little bit different to mine. I'm using the filing system here, so I'll make it easier. So here's the first conversation, very simple. I just loaded up the picture with the plus, and don't worry about these things here. I've changed up my ChatGPT. You won't see these things normally. I've just loaded up the picture. Could you sharpen and repair? That's the 2-step process. So we have the sharp picture, not too bad. Looks like an original photograph. And that's a problem here. It looks very original. The black and white looks very original. And now I say, can you colorize it now? And there we end up with a colorized with a cartoony face. Not great. And then we go for another pretty simple prompt here. Again, loading up the picture. Then please sharpen and colorize. So 1 step. Done a little bit better job, but as I say, for some reason Thomas has been promoted, so clearly fiction in many ways. And let's look at 2 other prompts I wanted to show you. So what many people do is use ChatGPT to analyze photographs and tell them a little bit about it. So I loaded the picture up here and said, please identify the date and regiment of the person in this photograph. Now I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, because it's a fairly long outlet. Some of it's correct, some of it's not, but it does identify the regiment, and I know which regiment Thomas served in. I've done a lot of analysis of the photograph. It does a good job, but then it says he was in a Royal Warwickshire regiment. And what it's done here is it's tried to identify it and then created an image that goes with its identification. So it's justified, and again, I won't go through the detail here, but all the things it said are true about the picture it is produced. So you've got to be very careful here. And then I said, what does the enhanced photograph tell you? And it goes into the different details. It says it's identified the regiment, the dates, and the typical things about the English soldier uniform is basically correct. And here's the final image. I asked it to colorize. Again, total fiction, and I would not use this anywhere close to genealogy at all. And then finally, we'll see the impact of a prompt here. So going through the same process, a little bit of a lag here. And instead of just loading the picture, I give the picture a lot of, not a lot of information, but some information, where he was born, when he was born, and then told ChatGPT to analyze it in a certain way, and then look at the different ways it can find a regiment, and then also give me a breakdown of reasoning. So it does this. Now it kind of gets the whole broad thing correct, and the type of service dress. So if I'm doing an investigation, this is a good start for me I mean, I won't take anything it takes as gospel, but it's a good start that I can take and do further investigation. Now, what it's done here is, because I've told ChatGPT where Thomas was born, it's changed its mind completely about regiment and done East of Yorkshire Regiment, which is actually the regiment that Thomas was in, but he was local to Hull. He didn't have to be that way. It's just taking the clues. So basically, I'm now influencing the output from ChatGPT by giving it information in the prompt. And as you can see, we've had two completely different regiments here. And so again, some fiction here. The cat badge would typically feature a galloping white horse over a scroll. There's no such cat badge as that. That is total fiction here. So we're getting some hallucinations and some fiction in this particular effort. It creates a black and white image again, and please suggest a regiment, and it's gone to cat badge details, belt buckle. So it's broadly correct. I've asked it to colorize. So here's a colorized version here. And I've asked it to zoom into the cat badge, and this is not the East Yorkshire. It's a typical Gen AI image. The spelling's incorrect, the badge is incorrect, and the correct badge here for the East Yorkshire Regiment is here. So you can see it's kind of that way, but again, total fiction. So let's go back and look at some other ways of trying to get images out of ChatGPT. So one way I tried is to use multiple images, and then we're back to Charles William here again. So what I did was I loaded 3 images of Charles. We'll go to the prompt again shortly. So you'll recognize this. This is the original, the Ancestry and MyHeritage. So I loaded all 3 and basically asked ChatGPT to use all 3 to try and create a composite image. Now, we'll compare all these later on. It's probably a little bit better, but again, for some reason, ChatGPT is refusing to have that flamboyant tie and the waistcoat watch here. So it's a fairly generic image, clearly not Charles inspired, but it just looks like a violin player. It has got the smile that Charles had, which none of the other renditions through ChatGPT had. So this is one way. The second way I tried to do it was take some older pictures of Charles. Now I don't have, this is the only young picture I have, but I've got some older pictures of Charles. So I basically said, here's 5 pictures, and again we'll look at the prompt, try and make me a composite image, and this is what it came up with. So again, nothing like Charles, and we'll go to like the side by side. So you let me know which one you think's the most like Charles from ChatGPT. I think the jury's a little bit out. They're all fiction. I still go back to the old picture, but surprisingly, I think that this one, which is just a standard sharpen and colorize, is kind of closer, but I don't know. But anyway, let's go and look at the prompts I used. So here we're back at ChatGPT, and these are fairly simple prompts here. As I said, I loaded, again, ignore those where I've got ChatGPT loaded here. There's the 3 images that I loaded up, 1, 2, 3. Simply, can you use these images to create a sharp, clean, photorealistic image of my grandfather? And there it is. Very, very simple. And then the one that's a little bit more complicated, we'll see, is this one here, where I used older pictures as well. And I've had to use a bit of more complex prompt here because it's not going to be easy for ChatGPT to figure out what I wanted to do. So I've told it exactly what we're dealing with. I wanted to maintain the exact pose of the original photograph, use high resolution. So I've gone into a little bit more detail, and what you'll find with all these Gen AIs is that you simple prompts don't really ever get you where you need to be. So you will have to use more complicated prompts a few times. But anyway, we used the 4 old photographs and the original, and this is what it came up with. So I don't know. I don't think that's anywhere close personally to what we had there. So that's that's fiction in many ways. And then the one last thing that I wanted to show you is an interesting way of using it, but a very dangerous way of using ChatGPT. And we'll go back here and we'll just go to the next slide and we'll move into total fiction here. So what I've done with ChatGPT now is I've loaded some more information. I've got photographs of myself, my dad, my granddad, my great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandfather. I already have pictures of them, and they've all been authenticated, if you like. My great-great-great-grandfather, James Beaumont, I don't have a photograph of him at all. But I have these photographs, and I have a bio of James. So what I did with ChatGPT is attach these pictures and a bio of James and ask ChatGPT to come up with a composite image of what my great-great-great-grandfather would have looked like. And this is what it thought he would look like. Now, surprisingly, the same picture, it could be, but again, this is more fiction than the previous ones. Now, if for my own personal use in my family tree, I wanted to put this as representation of James, that would be totally fine for me as long as I had on the here created by ChatGPT. But the concern here is that people will do this kind of thing and we will end up with these within Ancestry and nobody will know whether these are true or false. But anyway, let me pop over back to ChatGPT and I'll just show you the prompt real quick here. Let me go back here. And this is what it looks like. Fairly simple prompt. Attached are images of me and my paternal line. I have no photographs. And again, I could have gone into a lot more detail and used more photographs. And it gives some clues and it creates the image. This is I asked it to do a cabinet card image, which is very much a cabinet card here. And then I said, please create him as a butcher. He was a butcher in period clothing for Watford, England, 1850. And here we have him as a butcher. He's clearly the same person in both photographs. So I want to take a few moments to talk about the ethical concerns here of using ChatGPT or in fact any Gen AI system. There's an illusion of reality with these pictures, and I could have spent some more time messing with the prompts and got these close to the reality. But the risk here is that they look so convincing. It's so convincing that they're easy to forget that they're totally fiction. They're generated images. They're not images that were taken by a camera. So viewers might assume that these images are historically accurate. So it's key that we label them correctly. Now, tools like Ancestry and MyHeritage, you can load photographs up. So we can see that these could really spread misinformation throughout systems like that. So again, I'm going to make another video around how Ancestry handles these images, but it's clear that we need to label them and take some responsibility about how they're moved. And talking about responsibility, we need to be respectful for the real person. I've played with some images here, but it's disrespectful to Charles and Thomas if I'm using images that are not of them and I'll say they are them. And we're basically making fiction become reality here. So there's ethical concerns about using these outside of just using them within your own family and keeping them very tightly controlled and labeled. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it and I enjoy the intersection of Gen AI and genealogy. So if you've enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up and even more importantly, subscribe to my channel. It really helps a small channel like mine. And go to the comments and let me know which ones you thought looked the best and let me know if you've had any results with genealogy in Gen AI and creating images. Thanks for watching.